In this video, I'm going to be reviewing and installing and talking to you guys about a new product that I received from a company called GamLokR. These are actually controller grips, and you can put them on your Xbox One, your PS4 controller, and they also make them for the Nintendo Switch. So I always love doing a product review of something that's gaming related, and I've reviewed a couple of these controller grips in the past from different companies. GamLokR sells their grips for about $20. That's what the Xbox One controller grip goes for. $20 with free standard shipping, and these are manufactured in the United States over in Colorado, so it's always nice for me to get a product that's from the US. So the concept of these controller grips is pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. It's an extremely thin kind of adhesive decal or sticker that goes over your controller, and it wraps around the sides of your controller as well, and it has a textured kind of like a mix between a rubbery, foamy type material that's very thin, and it gives you better grip on your controller. It can help with sweaty controllers. It can also help, supposedly anyway, with accuracy and just giving you a better grip and a better feel on your controller. And GamLokR goes on to advertise that their product gives you a superior grip without changing the size and ergonomics of your controller. It's supposed to give you a nice, very thin grip. They advertise it's something like 0.4 millimeters thick, while giving you a much better grip and not changing the size of your controller. The packaging itself right here looks very nice. Everything is nice and branded and looks very nice, and the instructions look very simple and straightforward. It comes with a little GamLokR sticker as well as a little cleaning kind of like alcohol pad. You gotta wipe off the controller before you do this to get off any sweat, any oils, and any dirt that you can. You want to have the controller as clean as possible before you install this grip. Now, it's also going to be very helpful for you to have either a hairdryer or a heat gun on standby for when you complete this, to help you kind of shrink out some of the wrinkles that may arise when you are installing this, but I'll talk about that later. Now, you want to take your time with this installation because this product is meant to be applied once, and it can be peeled off and removed, but it can't be reapplied after it's removed, so you want to get it right on the first try. What I'm working with here is just a standard Xbox One controller. It's one of the newer models. I don't know if they call it like an Xbox One Slim controller, but that's the controller that I'm working with right here. So the first step I'm going to do is to clean off my controller with the little alcohol pad and get it as clean as possible. Then I'm going to take the grip without peeling off the paper on the back to expose the adhesive. I'm not going to peel the paper off yet. I'm going to want to line it up on the top of the controller just to get an idea of where everything's supposed to go. Now, I've already done this a lot off camera, so I'm going to kind of skip that step. Once you have kind of gotten a general idea of how you're doing this and where everything's going to go, you're going to peel off the middle section of the paper first. That's where you're going to start. Try to touch the adhesive part as little as possible with your fingers. You peel off the middle section first and line that up with your thumbstick and your home button and your start button, whatever buttons there are, your D-pad. Line it up perfectly as best as possible. Make sure the bottom part of it's not going too low either. Make sure you have the buttons lined up just right. Now, you can kind of slightly peel it off here and there to make little readjustments, but you don't want to press this thing on super firm until you have the whole grip on there. That way you can make those little repositionings and peel it just a little bit. So when you get that middle section on there and you're confident that you have it in just the right spot, you're then going to pick a side, either right or left, and you're going to peel the paper off of that side, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to work your way from the middle towards the outside, just lightly pressing it on in the correct position, making your little repositionings to make sure it is perfectly centered on the buttons. So I'm going to fast forward the rest of this installation process just because it's a bit repetitive, and for the sake of time for the video, I will also refer you to the online installation on their website. The guide they have is very helpful and informative, and basically just repeats a lot of this information I've given you with some visuals as well. The link to that will be in the video description down below, but once you have the entire grip on the controller and you feel that it is perfectly positioned, you can then begin firmly pressing on all areas of the grip to make sure it adheres completely. And when you're completely done firmly pressing everywhere, you're going to see a few little wrinkles and bumps here and there. I'm going to do my best to show you guys on this installation right here. Some areas there might just be little wrinkles around the curves. This is where the heat gun or the hair dryer comes into play. Now you will be able to push out some of these wrinkles with your fingers, but other ones will just pop right back up. So what the heat gun or the hair dryer is going to do for you is it's actually going to shrink the rubbery material on the grip, and it will shrink out the wrinkle. You want to do it in the area where the wrinkles are, and you only want to do it to the extent that you're able to smooth out the grip. You don't want to overdo it. I just used my heat gun on the lowest setting, and this was only like a $15 heat gun. You could also use a hair dryer like I said, and you just want to do it to the extent that you're able to push out those wrinkles and they don't come back. And then once you finish that, once you finish buffing out any wrinkles, any little bubbles that might have appeared, you're all done with the installation of this grip. It wraps around the two little handles where your hand goes and pretty much covers every part that your hand is touching, but it doesn't obstruct plugging in a mic, and it doesn't obstruct your battery cover. It doesn't obstruct the triggers at all. Now, the one thing it will block is your ability to change out the faceplate on your controller. Now, this is something that not many people do at all, so most people won't have an issue with this, but they do sell aftermarket faceplates of different colors and different designs that people can change out on their controller. If you did do this, you wouldn't be able to with this grip, but I don't think that's going to affect a lot of people. So I'm going to go to my reviewing aspect of this now. This voiceover you're hearing is being done about a month to a month and a half after I did this install, so I've been using the grips on my controller for about 4 or 5 weeks now, and I gotta say, I love them a lot. The texture is kind of like, if you'd imagine like a rocky, concrete surface, that's kind of what the texture resembles. It doesn't feel like that, it doesn't feel like stone, it feels like rubber, but that's what the pattern on the texture reminds me of. Now, they have a couple of advertising points giving you better grip, better accuracy. I'm sure it improved these things for me, but what I noticed the most improvement on was sweat. I share my controller with a lot of different people. You have people over, you guys are playing a one-player game maybe, and you gotta pass the controller from person to person, and there's always that one friend that has very sweaty hands, and it stinks to get the controller after them because it's just not that comfortable holding a very moist controller. This improved that a lot. Even when somebody with very sweaty hands was using the controller, when it's passed on, you don't notice it. I mean, the sweat is still there, but the grip, the texture, it just alleviates this a lot and makes the controller a lot more enjoyable to hold. And I use reusable batteries, and it was able to sit on my battery charger fine. The grip didn't make it sit too tall. I was able to charge my batteries just fine when they were inside the controller. Now, what I'm showing you right here is the one con that I have to list. After a couple of weeks' time, I saw some buildup around the edges of the grips. It was this kind of gunky, dirt-like buildup, similar to what I've seen with some of my other controllers after a few months' time, but this was in a shorter period of time. And I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm assuming it's sweat. From the edges of the grip and just from the sweatiness of hands, but what it also seems like it might be a little bit of the adhesive, because when I remove it, it kind of is elasticy and rubbery. So what I think it is, I think it's while you're firmly pressing and holding the controller, some of the adhesive will squeeze out from underneath the grip, similar to if you had two pieces of paper and you put a bunch of glue in between them and then press them together really hard. Some glue is going to squirt out on the edges. I think it's similar to that. I think some of the adhesive is kind of getting pressed out and mixing with sweat and kind of dirt on the hands and making this build up. It wasn't a huge deal. It took me just a few minutes to remove with a toothpick, so I mean, that's the only con I have to list, and besides that, the price on these was great. US shipping and US production is also awesome, so I would still recommend it even with that. They, like I said, have them for PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One. I'll have the links down below in the video description, and if you have any questions about this that you think I left out in the video, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. And finally, if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button for lots of awesome product reviews and gaming videos. And as always guys, thank you for watching from XM360.